And we're back. Welcome, everybody, back to the Be More Rugby podcast. Exciting podcast today. However, we're without Jay.
Yay!
So Smax, who still remains the greatest first guest we've ever had, has offered to step in for him while we have our special guest, Shelley Hamblin, on. How are you, Shelley?
I'm fine, thank you. A little bit nervous, not going to lie.
You're nervous.
Yeah.
I'm filling Jay's boots.
Oh, fair point.
Yeah.
Hopefully Jay will get better soon. I understand he's having to isolate for a few days.
Well, if I enjoy this, he may have to fight for it. We shall see. We shall see.
So thank you again to Wimbledon for letting us use the club for our podcast. Interesting podcast this time because we've had Smax, the manager, we've had the player, and today we've got Shelley, the coach, on. So nice all-around perspective of rugby, which is cool. But we'll kick off with a general warm-up. Sticky paper on the tables. Talk about a bit of news, the big win of the weekend, which arguably was the under-13s win against Swans.
Yes, it
Oh,
was.
yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
How did it go?
It was brilliant. I was so chuffed for the lads, particularly. They have worked really, really hard this season, and we've had a few defeats, I'm not going to lie. And we've had quite a big defeat against Burnham-on-Sea when we played on tour last week. So to come back and play Swans this weekend and win was brilliant.
Because the tour was last weekend, wasn't
the tour was last weekend, yeah. So
You shouldn't win any games on tour.
Well, they didn't. And there was only one.
Good.
Nobody else could play. So we just had fun on
Excellent.
the Saturday, which is what it was about ultimately. So yeah, they came back and I was told that they had no choice. They had to win. They had to get out there and just go for it, enjoy it, and just put everything in, and they did.
And
So
they did,
so
yeah.
proud of them.
Fantastic. I must admit, I think it was quite a successful weekend for Wimbledon. All in all, the first team won.
First team won. Didn't start so well, but they came back to beat Yeovil here, something like quite a lot, 30 points to 22 or something. But yeah, it didn't start well, but it got better, shall we say. And our twos were not so lucky over at Oaks.
No.
But we'll move on from that one.
One might say that Jay's lucky streak that brought to the club probably had a bit to play.
That was it. Didn't have any gingers in it.
Well, he might have a word about it in that bit, but we'll see. And of course, the men's Six Nations finished with a French Grand Slam, and all by the Welsh, I think we turned Italian for probably 80 minutes.
I have no idea. What was that result about? I didn't see that one. Didn't you mention that just for all our Welsh friends?
No, I was chuffed for the Italians. Was it 7 years without a win? Something like that, was it?
A number of
Something more than
games,
that?
wasn't it?
It
30
was-
odd games.
it was a number.
Yeah,
And
really pleased for
that
that.
last kick, he just collapsed. It showed all the passion, all the everything for me. It was wonderful.
It
And against the Welsh.
yeah, it couldn't have got better.
No,
Is
I
that
know.
what you're saying?
I kind of, yeah.
Well, I can't really comment on that because Barry's half Welsh. So
Oh, is
I'm
he?
gonna say my kids are quarter Welsh. What
Makes
can
it
I
even
say?
better.
Well, I keep my mouth shut on that one.
And the Women's Six Nations kicked off this weekend. Big win for England.
Big win.
But it raises the question for the women's game, seeing as England are the professional outfit and Scotland, I think, have got a few that have got contracts. Everyone's expecting England to dominate this Six Nations. The disparity, obviously, between them and Scotland was obvious. Is that because England are good, or is that just the difference between a professional outfit and a semi-stroke amateur outfit?
Good question. Good question. France winning comfortably. Got to be more professional players in France than Italy.
Yep.
I don't know about Wales or Ireland.
Ireland have got no professional players. I think they get sponsor.
Guinness, would it be?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think they, as I understand it, they get expenses.
Okay.
The Welsh have taken on a number of players and given them a professional contract. Maybe that was the difference in the end. That gave them the strength and the muscle to get through against Ireland at the end. Ireland were looking good. Wales came through in the end, just muscled their way through in the second half. They just were just far, far stronger than them.
Well, I think if you've got the time that you've been dedicated to taking part in that, where you haven't got to then give yourself a full-time job alongside it, and you've been given that time, the coaching, the money to support you, then surely that's got to count for something, and it's going to make that team stronger. They play better together. They trust each other more. They've got all those core values and whatever surrounding the game. Then I would imagine that is going to support them and push them through to being a better team.
And I think if that's the difference, say we take the Scotland-England game, if that's the difference between professional and non-professional rugby in the women's international game, the fact that they've had such fantastic coverage on the telly now, rather than it just being something that you find on an iPlayer or something like that, the fact that it's been on the main channels means there's got to be some more money going into it. So hopefully then it will give the opportunity for the Irish, the Italians, whatever, to come. Hopefully it'll give them the chance to come up, and we'll get some real good competition in the women's game.
Yeah,
I think England's so good because of the Wimbledon link.
Probably, yeah.
And that's it.
Three players in the England team.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go. It's got to stand for something, surely.
One scoring the hat-trick as well, by the way, I'll have you know.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's promote the club. Yeah.
Absolutely. 3 players in their squad it's pretty good going, I would say.
Yeah.
I think TikTok's probably, not that I'm a big fan of TikTok or anything like that, but because it's probably aimed more at a younger demographic. Are you on TikTok, Smax?
No. A younger
Probably
demographic, you said.
Aimed at a younger demographic. The fact that they're sponsoring the Women's Six Nations means it's going to be in front of young up-and-coming rugby players. It's going to be on their phones. It can only promote the game more and bring more talent through.
Absolutely. If it's on their radar, then they'll know what they're looking for. They know how to say. I have to say I'm not on that sort of thing. But I know all the kids are at school, and they all watch umpteen videos on it. My kids watch it. So yeah, I think it is definitely promoting it. You've got the promotion is key, and then the promotion is going to bring money, which is going to breed success, as they say.
Absolutely.
Breed success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be nice to see a stronger female side at Wimbledon. I think
numbers and across the board. Yeah,
I think some of the ladies at Wimbledon have to travel up to Ringwood. Is that right?
Most of them do. Yeah,
to play. But Swans have got a good female.
Swans
side.
have got an older group of ladies playing, like adult ladies. But even they are struggling with the youngsters. I have to say.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So hopefully the fact that Six Nations is now on mainstream TV and on TikTok is going to,
fingers crossed,
bring through some talent. Yeah,
promote it a little bit. I just think as much as it is on the telly a little bit more, I still feel that it is as widely known or promoted as the men's rugby. So kids still aren't aware, or not even just kids, teenagers, young adults still aren't aware that the opportunities are there to take part, or it's not taken as seriously, or whatever it might be. So therefore they don't do it, or they're seen as not being the ones that could be taking part. But like I say, rugby, there's a role for everybody in rugby, any shape, size, whatever. Whereas lots of sports, it is quite stereotypical in the fact that you've got to be tall, slim, athletic, to play certain sports. But rugby, I think there's a role for everyone.
Absolutely.
Shall we say?
But it wasn't long ago that football was, or women's football was just something you just don't go to watch. But that's come on very recently in leaps and bounds. So hopefully. But
then again, that's money and promotion.
Yeah, but it can happen. It can happen to rugby.
Yeah, it can. It's, providing that time and effort is put into it.
Absolutely.
And that is the only way it's going to be promoted, is by putting that time and effort into that, to allow those people to feel that it's okay to come and play, or find that that's a sport for them, or
To come here to
to
play.
come here to play.
Here to play,
Absolutely, to come
yeah.
to Wimbledon to play rugby. Absolutely.
That's the
Anybody.
exciting thing about, and I think the way the women's game's now progressing so rapidly, is to watch England walk over Scotland. It's great if you're an England fan, but as far as rugby goes, they were outclassed. But to watch Ireland and Wales, that are obviously far closer matched and far behind France and England with regards to their progression into professional rugby, to watch that game, to see a real battle, to see Wales way behind at half time to come through and win, that's a really interesting game to watch. Because let's face it, the Six Nations it's expected to be an England walkover. France close behind,
Yeah,
and then all the rest will
It'll be
fight
the
it
winner
out
of
for.
England, France that wins it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So to see, to see it on mainstream TV, like you say, get some money into it.
Yeah.
So exciting for that side. It's moved on so far so quickly. Just needs that little extra push, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
It'll come.
Mm. So, I think we'll kick off the first half then. I'd like to invite Shelley again to our podcast.
Thank you very much.
Shelley, first half, just want to find out a bit more about yourself. You played rugby when you were at university. Did you play rugby before?
No, I didn't play before. Well, that's not true. I went to Swans actually for a little bit. But then I lived in Wareham. So at sort of like under 15, but it didn't really take off. I mean, that was probably 30 years ago now, and it was just sort of being introduced at that point. And there was probably about 6 or 7 of us that used to go down and play and knock the ball about a little bit, but nothing ever came of that.
Is that, do you think, because you only had 6 or 7?
Probably, and it just wasn't anywhere else either. You know, it wasn't in Ringwood, it wasn't in Wimborne, it wasn't at Bournemouth. There wasn't anywhere else that I knew of that was pushing it, apart from Weymouth, actually.
Yeah. Weymouth and Dorchester have had teams
so
for years.
Weymouth certainly did, because I remember playing those as we went to uni. So I seriously picked it up after I'd finished Weymouth College, and then went on to uni in Plymouth and picked it up there.
So why go and play when there's only a few at Swans?
I think it was just different. That was the thing. I was always been interested in sport and was a swimmer really initially, but then medical issues meant I couldn't swim anymore. So I then started playing volleyball at school, which was great. And then at the same sort of time, the opportunity for rugby came up too. So I sort of went, okay, well, let's go and we'll give that a go as well. I was quite happy to play something different. Football was never really my game, was never interested in it at all. So things were very stereotypical when I was at school. It was hockey, it was netball. And that's what you did. And I did do all of those things, and that was fine. But still there wasn't that outlet after school. You know, you did it in school, you did it as extracurricular in school, but there still wasn't the teams outside of school. So the first one really for rugby that came up that was different was at Swans. I played at Wessex Volleyball at that point still, but rugby was a little bit different. So they were both seen as minority sports effectively. And I went and picked up a couple of minority sports instead. So just because it was a different activity.
So how does that go when you're mindful for all of the clubs out there that are trying to develop the female side of the game? How does that go when you've only got 6 or 7 players? Did you join in with the lads?
No,
was it?
No, we just had, from what I remember, it was literally just the 6 or 7 of us. We had a coach down there. He was a nice chap, nice guy. And we just coached us a little bit. We did a little bit of tackling, we did a little bit passing, and played a little bit. But it to be honest, quite quickly, I guess it dwindled out and never really. It's picking back up now, but it probably dwindled out quite quickly. We just sort of tried it for a season, and then that was it. It didn't really last. So hence picking up volleyball to a greater degree at that point.
So when you got to university, then was the next time you?
Yeah, so I probably played for a season when I was 15-ish, and then picked it up again when I was 19.
Were you excited about the rugby at uni?
Yeah.
Did you go searching it?
It was a PE college, so it was always There's always going to be
sports on
everywhere.
everywhere.
And I knew I was going to go and play volleyball, and I knew then that rugby was there as well, and it was quite a successful team, and there was a number of us in our hall that went. So I think there was probably 4 or 5 of us out of 10 that went and gave it a go, and there was tons of freshers that went and did it. So it was good, and then it just sort of clicked, and it was just a really lovely group of girls. Actually, they were nice, they were accepting. It wasn't cliquey at all. So obviously you go and try everything when you go to uni, because you think, okay, well, better go to the netball team, and I better try for whatever. But went to netball and was like, a little bit cliquey, actually. It's not really for me. But the rugby totally was not. And the coach was lovely, and we just sort of got mucked in, and you got on and you played, and you learnt really quickly. They chucked you in at the deep end, and you, like I say, learnt really quick, and you just got on with it. And with games every week, and it was great.
Wow.
And that was just playing in a university league?
Initially, yes, we played in the university league for the first year that I was there. And then I think it was the second year. I think the second year we then got involved in Plymouth Albion as well, which was basically, so we played Saturdays and Sundays almost. And so we'd go and train as Plymouth Albion to try and bolster the Plymouth team. But to be honest, it was generally the Marjon team playing for Plymouth Albion. But so we played quite a lot, and then we went into the Southwest League as Plymouth Albion, and then did that alongside the university leagues as well. So busy.
Was it a quality team?
Well, our team?
Yeah, you coaching now would know what a good team needs to be like. We would hope. Do
you know what it
was?
Was
that just girls throwing a ball around?
No, it wasn't. It was a quality team. It's spread across 4-year groups, obviously, and like I say, it was when rugby was starting to become more popular with females, and I would say there was probably a squad of about 25 of us, 30 of us maybe, and within that there was a number of internationals for students. Within sort of by the time I got into my second year, at least I would say in the 4th year at that point there were 3 or 4 Welsh internationals. Some of them played for Wales, some of them played student Welsh team. We had a girl in my year was an England student player. There was a lot.
So from Plymouth, where were the teams that you would play?
Initially, when we first started for Plymouth Albion, we were in Southwest 3, I think, if I remember rightly, and we were playing people like Red Roof, so all Penzance. It was all Cornwall based, all Cornish based. And then as we went through the ranks, we ended up going into South Division 3, and we every Sunday our fixtures were in London. So it was like, oh god, we got to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, which isn't great after a Saturday night out, but 6 o'clock in the morning, and we were shipping off to Saracens, Richmond.
Oh, wow.
And then of course they'd have to come down to us. Supermarine we'd have to play as well. All really strong teams at the time. So it was.
So what was your position?
Generally second row, number 5. Still got my shirt, and prop as well. It depended on where. Never played hooker, not a chance. But 1, 3, 4, or 5. So variety.
And what standard or level did you get to, or Plymouth Albion?
Plymouth we, like I said, we played in South Division in the end. I can't remember what league it was, but it was, like I said, it was pretty good considering we were playing Saracens thirds, Richmond seconds, that sort of standard who we were against. Myself, I ended up having England trials for students. Did play South England students, but ended up with trials but didn't get in. But there was a tough field. I remember going up there to train, and it was like, there's a lot of good girls up here, and a lot of the ones that did get through, apart from a girl Emily that was with us, she got through from Marjon's, but the rest of them were all quite London based. I think big teams up there, lots more opportunity, big coaches, I guess. So
did you have a male coach or female?
We did have a male coach. Chris was his name. Can't remember his surname, but he was he was all right actually. He was good guy, really dedicated. We probably trained 3 times a week, and he was totally stuck at it and just got us through. Came up to wherever we went and got us through to the university finals at one point, which was brilliant, up at Twickenham, which was great.
Twickers on the Harrow turf.
Tell us about that. How's that feel to run out at Twickenham?
Oh, it was amazing actually. It was bit surreal because you sort of got there and we all went up on coaches. There's like 3 coaches of supporters that came up with us as well, and we were playing Edinburgh, so they'd obviously come down. Yeah, it was a big old match, so they'd come down with a couple of supporters as well, a couple of coaches, and you just sort of walked onto the pitch and it was a bit like, wow, this is I don't think you really quite believed you were there
This
and
is
doing
real
it.
now.
Yeah, this is actually quite real. We've actually got to step up to the plate and actually play here. And I remember my mum and dad came up, and because I was a part of the not management, I did like the secretarial or something, and my mum and dad got to go in the box to watch rather than just a stand, so that was quite cool. They were quite pleased with that. So yeah, it was really, really good. A load of the primary school kids came to watch. So the stands, I wouldn't say they were full because they weren't full, but you know, they were there, and we were obviously playing, and you could hear them to a degree, but in the same breath, I think you were sort of so focused on what you were doing, you almost couldn't hear them. You know, you could see these arms and whatnot flailing around, but you couldn't really hear what was going on because I guess the atmosphere just sort of soaked up a little bit. But I
think most players don't hear coaches or anyone shouting from the side.
No, I think you just sort of got on with it, got in the zone and had a go.
So you managed to get in the zone even though you're playing in Twickenham. You managed to focus enough to actually play the game.
Yeah, we did. And it's, you sort of, once you were on and you were playing, you sort of almost forgot that you were there.
Yeah.
And you just got on and you did. And we were lucky we won, which was even better. So that was we were really chuffed.
And you scored loads of points?
I didn't score any. I wish I had, but you know, as a second row, you don't tend to score too many points, do you? You sort of catch the ball.
Not your job, is it?
No, you ship the ball out, or you catch the ball and you run into trouble and you go to ground and somebody else runs on and scores. So no, I was one of those donkey forwards, as they used to call them, which was a bit harsh, but
things haven't changed.
They haven't changed. No, that's what I keep saying. Pretty boy backs and the donkey forwards.
Yeah.
So I was a forward and really didn't score.
So have you got your trophy still? You must have some memorabilia from then.
I've still got my playing shirt. Once we'd played there, we got to keep our shirts. Then we got a new strip, so that was quite nice. So my number 5 on the back of my shirt, and we got a little gold medal in its presentation box. So that's still in there. We've got paper. I've got clippings of media write-ups, which are in the memory box somewhere. So yeah, in fact, a friend posted it on Facebook the other day. It come up, and she had found at home. She'd found a clip about it and posted it on Facebook. Said, "Shelley, look!" I was like, "Oh, exciting memories from a long time ago."
I think that's what you got. Main thing is memories of it.
Yeah,
for sure. Everybody.
Yeah,
mum and dad.
Yeah, mum and dad. Yeah. Remember going in, getting strapped up from my knee because it was hurting, so they took you in and strapped your knee up. Like, I feel like semi-professional.
so did your knee hurt when you went on the pitch? And during the game, I get it was hurting before they strap it up, but then adrenaline kicks in.
Yeah, you didn't notice it after that. You sort of, in the warm up, you're like, that's a bit niggly, because we played a lot of rugby that season. For, like, say, for Albion and for the club. So you played double rugby, and it was quite tough. And I think a lot of us it was March time, I think, end of the season. So a lot of you are probably carrying a niggly injuries, and so we'd all came out all strapped up with this bright blue tape. It was like, hey, we are definitely made it if we've got that tape on. Yeah, we're there. So yeah, it was good. We found
Did any of your side go on to international level?
I think they did Wales wise, yes. But for Wales, a few of the girls did represent proper Wales. I think they certainly represented students. A number of them represented students for both Wales and England. So yeah, it was good.
So was it off the back of that you got your trials?
No, we'd had the trials already previous to that. So
and that was for England.
Students. So, and then stayed just English students for a couple of years, and then when I started doing my PGC and stuff, it had to sort of scale back because I couldn't fit it in. So once the official degree had finished and it went to teacher training, we scaled it back a little bit. So still played at weekends, but not the next step up.
So you dropped rugby for your career?
Effectively, but I'd also injured my back a bit with all the shoving and the whatever else thing.
Being second row.
Yeah, being second row. And of course, at that age, you don't cool down properly, do you? Not on those days, and sort of, and then with the volleyball as well, it's a lot of jarring. So it sort of, it sort of took a bit of a back seat, and then the career came into it, and I moved to Swindon, and then
that's a shame.
Yeah, so it was like, it was all right. I was in a good school in Swindon.
A shame
there weren't
Swindon,
many.
I think.
So then I stuck to volleyball in the end while I was there. because there wasn't a big uptake for women's rugby in Swindon at the time.
But you're in rugby now. So when did you get back into rugby?
When I had my son, actually.
Okay.
So it had a big break. So yeah, all from after finishing uni all the way through working, and then I had Max back in 2009. So when he was an under 6, he's not a footballer. So he got my build. So he's not a footballer. So I brought him up here in about the Christmas time when he was 5, 6. And then from there, so then Barry Williams actually was coaching at that point with that age group, under 6s and under 7s. And I let him carry on with that. And then when he moved up, sort of toward the end of the season, I sort of jumped in because I knew he was a teacher as well. So to chat with him. And then as he moved up to the under 8s age group, I jumped in. And actually that was when Simon came into the under 6s. And so we worked together with under 6s and under 7s. And then it's been from there onwards, really, all the way through to the under 13s.
Wow. And now you're lead coach.
Wow, yeah. I took that role on from about under 8s. Yeah, that's them. As soon as we moved up one, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to do this by myself.
Wimborne's only female lead coach.
Yes.
To date.
To date.
Yeah, to date.
How do you feel about that?
It's fine. Do you know what? The club itself is brilliant. They are very supportive. And they, if I ask for anything, generally they let me have it, which is great. Smax needs some new balls.
We are just
Shelley.
scared of you.
Yeah, can I have this? Yeah,
We
of
are
course you
just
can.
scared of you.
Scared,
That's
whatever.
it. That's it.
It can be quite daunting at times, not from this club's perspective, but when you go away to visiting clubs.
Really?
I think.
Well, because it's seen as a male-led sport.
Yeah, and I think initially when I first took on lead coach and I would go to visit or go to other clubs, I did have Jason's my second in command, I would say, and they would often go directly to him, rather than to me, and you sort of like, oh, that's not on. So I'd sort of muscle my way in a little bit. Hang on, blah, blah. But having done it now for a number of years, they know that it's me. So they generally come to me, and it's not an issue, but it can be at times a little bit daunting.
So do you think that was just ignorance, or was that just that they didn't want to so much come to you as a female coach? Do you think back then it was a little bit more that they just weren't expecting it, or was there an issue with it?
I think it depended where you went.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So I think if it was very big in the area, I think it was quite a shock to see a female coach, and consequently they was like, oh, and would then go off to the male coach as such, particularly if they didn't have experience of female coaches in their own club. If it's something outside their comfort zone almost, it's sort of well, has she really got any idea what she's talking about? So I think there was probably an element of both. So, but unfortunately, they've had to put up with me for a number of years now, so they've just all got used to it. They go, "Oh, she's here again."
We have tried to get rid of you, but you.
Wow, I just keep coming back. I'm like a bad smell.
No one else wants you.
No, I know.
There's an interesting point though. There's still not many female coaches in the professional, or certainly at club level, national level, or anything like that. There's still the coaches, managers, whatever, tend to be predominantly male.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, and I was looking at this when I wrote the book, when it comes to being a coach, your priority is the players, making sure they're okay.
Yeah.
This is an interesting point because you're a teacher, and there's a lot of high-level international coaches that have come from the teaching background, including Eddie Jones. Who else was there?
Stuart Lancaster, I think.
Stuart Lancaster, yeah, a number of coaches.
There was the guy at Ireland.
Oh,
Schmidt.
Yeah,
Joe Schmidt.
Yeah, lots have come through from the teaching side. And interestingly, in psychology, there's one big difference between men and women. There's not much of a difference, but women tend to be more people orientated, and men tend to be more thing orientated, which is why they say men tend to be more interested in engineering, that sort of stuff, and women tend to be more interested in care or teaching.
Yeah.
So interesting then that there's a lot of teachers that go into coaching, but also I don't understand why there's not more females that are coaching, seeing as there's so much importance on player welfare, developing players, making sure that they can progress through, just as you do in teaching, I suppose.
I think that's stereotypes.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it is seen as when it comes to an international or any higher level sort of sport, you tend to find that coaches are male. I mean, even when I even playing volleyball for Wessex at the time, it was a male coach for a female squad, and you're like, well, how's that work all the time? Because like I say, females tend to understand females, and you think, well, why is that not happening? But then maybe that is because, like I say, females are much more people orientated, and therefore maybe they don't then have that competitive drive as much to push that team to its limits almost. Although that we do that in different ways. So I don't know, it's a difficult one to answer that. I don't know why there's not as many female coaches.
No, I think, like you say, it's probably a stereotype thing in the fact that it's expected that a sports team would have a male coach because historically it's always been lads playing sports. Whereas actually the women's game's shown that, that hopefully things are progressing so quickly. I just can't see that there won't be a case where there's more female coaches come through into the professional level as it progresses more. Yeah,
I wonder if it's time as well, though, because I sit here and you ask me, did you watch this? Did you watch that? No, I've got time to watch that. So I literally, like say on a Sunday morning, I know I've got to be here for 10:30 to come and set up. But in the meantime, there's other things you've got to think about with the kids at home. You've done this, you've done that, you've done the next thing. Is that ready for this? Is that ready for? And my mind isn't just thinking about rugby. It's thinking about a million and one other things that I've got to do before rugby and after rugby, and actually what's going on in the week, and are the kids feeling okay, and can they do that? So I just don't know sometimes if you've got the amount of brain space in your head to dedicate to that level of coaching, maybe because you're so busy talking about doing other things all of the time. And I did have a conversation whilst on tour. I did have a conversation with one of the coaches. Me and Lauren, actually the manager, were having a conversation with one of the male coaches, and he said, why is it that my wife says this? And me and Lauren both looked at him and went, well, it's because she's thinking this, and she's got this, and this to think about as well. Whereas you've only got that to think about.
But you can multitask. We can't.
Well, this is the point, you see. But there's only so much, Smax, you can multitask without your head exploding. And then when you have got to go, okay, well, I have now got to try and fit in a 2-hour coaching session for rugby. Brilliant, that's fine. And this is what I want to do. This, and this, and this. But your mind is constantly somewhere else as well, which is why I don't referee anymore, because I don't have that focus. I can't do it because my mind wanders. And I'm like, oh, actually, what are we making for tea tonight? Oh God, well, I haven't got the chicken out the freezer, or something inane and daft like that. Whereas I think, like I said, the blokes have got that focus, and this is what they're doing now.
Think of now.
I am coaching rugby now for the next 2 hours, and when I get home I am going to eat tea or do my work or do whatever it is you've got to do, which just appears, and there it is, lovingly made, and you stuff it down and put your plate on the side,
and then it gets washed up by magic.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Amazing. But I wonder, for me to progress any further, I don't feel I've got the, as in up levels, not necessarily take my group through, but to get any higher with the stage I am in life with 2 kids, I don't think I would have the brain space or the time to dedicate to it.
If you were offered a professional position, though, which meant that you didn't have to work, would you, and it would be a choice.
Yeah.
Would you choose to go into that?
See, that would be different, because that would be my job.
Yeah.
And then I'd have brain space for my job.
Okay.
Whereas at the moment I've got my teaching job, I've got my home job, and I've got my coaching job. So if I was offered a professional role somewhere, that would become my job. So you then have brain space for that, as well as thinking about all those other things as well. So you find space for that to fit in, because that becomes a quite a big priority.
And would you choose that if it was on the table?
Do you know, I've never even thought about that, because it's money. I honestly don't know, because I've never seen myself. Sometimes I struggle thinking, am I doing a good job with the under 13s, let alone going on to a professional level? So
I would say you are doing a good job. I've watched them out here, and all of them.
Oh, they love it.
Yeah,
which is why I do it,
and that's
what it's about.
That's a good job.
Ultimately, it is.
I see nothing else there.
And that's why I carry on doing it, because they love it.
Yeah.
So
most of them are taller than Jason as well.
I know, which is I always, whenever I count how many kids I've got on there, I'm a bit of a counter. I had 18, if I still got 18, I've got 19. I definitely didn't have 19. Oh, it's Jason.
Yeah.
Or Matt, actually, because they're both the same sort of size. So I often count them as part of the players. But yeah, so I don't know about the professional route. It's not something I've ever really thought about.
How long can you see yourself staying here at Wimbledon coaching?
I've always said,
would you take your group through to the end of academy or college?
I've always said I would take them. I would take them through as long as I think I'm the right person to do it. In my head, it'll be till they're under 16s. As long as I've got a brilliant coaching team behind me now. It's taken a couple of years to develop. So me and Jason have picked them up from, I think Jace joined me in under 9s. So he's been with me since under 9s, and then a couple of the other dads have sort of picked up over the last couple of seasons. So there is a squad of 5 of us now, which is brilliant. And I am learning to disseminate. I sort of come up with the ideas of what I want them to do, and they play still, which is the difference. I think things have changed since I played. So as much as I can manage groups of kids, and I have the right ethos, and I have all those things that you need as a lead coach as well, there are times when I think to myself, I'm struggling with the content a little bit. So, but I have got those players that play, and again are up with all of this now, and that's fine. And I just sort of now go, okay, you need to go and do something about this is what I want to focus on. And Jason takes them off and does something like this. And I say, Matt, this is what we need to do here. And he goes, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, we can do that. We do this. I said, yeah, do this, this, and this. And he'll go and goes and does. And we do like little workshops with them. We bring them together and whatever else. So as long as I'm the right person, or I think I'm the right person, I'll take them as far as I can.
How much of that ability to run a training session like that and coach the little ones and bring your team together to coach them comes from your teaching, and how much comes from your playing background?
I would probably say 90% of it comes from teaching, just because it's what I went into it for. It is about to me, it is about the enjoyment, and it is about developing the kid as a whole child, I should say, as a whole. So it's, the playing is great if you've got that bit of knowledge which supports what you want to drive forward, then brilliant. I mean, I can get drills out of a sport plan online, or Rugby Coach Weekly, or whatever. I can drag those. I can ask people for different drills. I can speak to Tabs or whatever it might be. So, but my ability to actually engage those kids and bring them together and outlay and manage and coach, teach to it for the enjoyment, most of it comes from my ability to teach. As a teacher.
Yeah.
So do you consider yourself a teacher or a coach?
See, there's a difference. I consider myself a teacher, and where coaching values then differ, I will bring in the coaching element of that. But I tend to find that I teach rather than coach, I think. But at this age, that's what they need. They need someone to sort of, like say, develop the whole person and give them ideas, give them leading things. It's not just all about me. Sometimes we'll give it over to the kids sometimes. What can you do that's better? It's not all just about me telling them all the time, well, what have you done well? What have you not done well? What can you do to improve? So they are constantly thinking as well about what they need to develop, rather than being didactic and me going bang, 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 autocratic. It's hopefully a bit of democrat in there as well.
Identify their own things, self-diagnosis maybe.
They've got to identify their own strengths and weaknesses, what they need to do to improve. It can't all come from me, because they don't get it, they don't understand if I keep telling them.
No.
So if I can say, you can't keep cutting them out, you've got to keep running forward. But until they realize that they've cut someone up or tripped someone up, or someone's got aggie with them because they can't pass it or whatever, they've almost got to learn by their mistakes. So there's a bit of a difference.
Do you think there's more? Obviously, we tend to focus on social media. If you follow rugby or if you're into rugby or whatever, and you watch the big games and stuff, you tend to focus on the coaching sessions when somebody's already in a position where they know how to play rugby. Do you think that in your position, when you've got some youngsters that are learning to play rugby, do you think that's more important to develop them at that stage than it is once they've learned how to play rugby, just to tweak the little details to make them the professional?
I think they need to learn from a very young age what the purpose of rugby is all about. And it is, you can see the more able kids when they're on the pitch, and there's no getting away from that. But
that can change though.
That can change, absolutely, because those at the moment, my squad particularly are in a stage of development. So we've got some quite small players and we've got some bigger players. And next year, I think, according to Barry, it's going to get even worse. So it's now trying to keep those smaller players still engaged and happy to play against those bigger players. And eventually they will catch each other up. So when they hit under 15s, under 16s, they might have developed a bit and be slightly bigger, which is, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. But if they've learned all those core values and all those things at a younger age, that will come. I always say this to the kids, even if I'm teaching swimming, I'll say, well, it's one thing having the speed, but if you haven't got the technique, the speed is pointless. You have to have the technique and then the speed will come. And they sort of go, oh, right, okay. So if you do that better, that will work better as you go through. So yeah, I would always teach all that sort of stuff. I think it's important the younger you are and keep building on that. And then eventually, like I say, the technique and the minor tweaks will happen as they get older.
And then in time, the size will come.
And the size will come. Yeah, you've got to get the skills in early, and then you'll catch each other up eventually. And then as a result of that, you will probably be better because you've learned to take defeat, you've learned the disappointment, you've learned all those things because you're not as big and therefore not using your size and your weight and stuff to barge through people. You've learned those techniques and tactics and whatever else. And once that all comes together, when you hit under 15, under 16, then you're a better all-rounded player because you learn how you
grow shoulders. You grow shoulders and guns.
Excellent. Guns. Yes.
We talked on the last podcast with Harry Baz about he'd been up to Scotland and he trained in Scotland when he was younger, and they play full contact rugby a lot earlier. We mentioned the fact that in the Southern Hemisphere they play weight categorized rugby rather than age categorized rugby. Is that something you would like to see over here? Would you encourage it? Or because the other side was that he said that some of the bigger lads didn't develop the skills that they needed because they could just run through a player, whereas the smaller lads going up against the bigger lads, they had to really drill down on their skills in order to compete.
I think there are swings and roundabouts for both, aren't there? Exactly like you just said, you've got to work harder if you, as a smaller person, to get around that bigger player, which obviously brings on the smaller players brilliantly. But where does that leave the bigger players? Because the bigger players have got no one to compete against because you're wiping out the smaller players. So I think it's probably good for the bigger players because they're having to compete against someone of a similar size. But the smaller players, like I say, step up. It's like having a mixed ability squad, isn't it? If you've got a mixed ability squad, you want them all to play, but if they're having to compete for their place within that, then they work harder to get in there. I'm not one to have a necessarily an A and a B, because I know these kids might aspire to be in there, but if there's 15 kids up there, the likelihood of them getting up there is far less than if you put them together and then try to
bring them all on.
So hence we'll try to run 2 mixed abilities. And they do. And when we then pick and choose, they're like, Shelley, can I step up for that team? Can I come and play because you haven't got enough? Can I? You're like, well, actually, I don't need you this week, but maybe next week. And so they are always fighting to want to come in, which is great.
So locally to Wimbledon, you've got 2 squads, you say?
Yeah, we try.
Okay, so you have 2 squads.
Yeah.
Do any other clubs have 2 squads at your age?
I think there's a few which have got similar numbers to us, but have
Okay.
chosen to run it as one squad. Which, to me, the reason we chose to run the 2 squads with the 30 players that we had was because it gave them more game time. Rather than then going, okay, well, we'll take these 19, which ultimately tend to be your strongest 19, because that's what you do when you want to go and play a game, certainly if it's a cup game. Whereas my ethos was more, actually, I'd rather play mixed ability and let all the kids have more game experience. And if I have to rob from Peter to pay Paul,
and develop them all,
rather than them floundering or feeling that they're not good enough to be picked for that game.
And if you don't play them, they're going to drop the game, go elsewhere, and then in 4 years' time, that individual could be a super.
Well, they could be, because they've caught everybody else up, and
so
the idea is to keep them all involved.
I think that's
engaged.
Great philosophy.
So so at the moment that works. Next year it might be different. I don't know.
No, that's stick with that, I would say.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see.
So did you, going back to your university days, so you were doing teacher degree, I suppose?
Yeah.
In physical education?
I did it in physical recreation and recreation studies.
Okay.
And then, which is event management and stuff like that. And then did a PGCE in secondary teaching. So
it was your ambition to be a teacher?
Yeah, always was.
Wow.
Always
did you
from
have
middle school. Yeah.
Any thoughts about coaching then at that stage when you were at uni playing rugby and doing a teacher?
Well, weirdly, I'm not coaching necessarily, but always, like I say, I used to swim a lot when I was younger. When I was 14, I had ear issues, so then couldn't swim. So I then coached swimming instead. So I was always looking at coaching, developing those coaching skills instead. And then went to uni, took up swimming teaching while I was there as a part-time job alongside the degree and whatever else. So it was probably, and again, never really thought about it, because you were going in to teach, and at that point, I don't think there was really a difference between teaching and coaching. You went in, you did, and that's what you did.
Teach the game as well.
You teach the game. It was. I knew you'd do it as a teacher through extracurricular clubs and whatever else, and you'd take those kids that were keener to come in and develop that. I don't know if I ever saw myself necessarily taking an outside club, because I thought I'd probably play it longer. But for various reasons I didn't. Just because. So just because. So then, like I say, when Max came along, it was a question when he was old enough of throwing myself in there, because I didn't want to be one of those parents which sort of stands on the sideline and goes and judges what's going on, knowing full well that actually I could get on and give him a hand and actually probably could bring something to the table, rather than being one that likes to judge from the sideline.
That's a big difference, though, isn't it? Coaching swimming, which is a individual sport, to then dropping yourself into rugby.
Yeah, but I was always a team player anyway at school, and I think I was a bit of a jack of all trades. So I just used to get involved in whatever was going on. Even made me sprint the 200 meters once at King Park. Oh, I laughed. Along with the shot put. I could do the shot put, but I had to do a track as well. I was like, right, yeah, okay, I'll do 200 meters, shall I? But yeah, I would just give it a go. And it didn't really matter. Anything that was up, I would go and do. Have a go.
Try it.
And generally, because I was a jack of all trades, you'd get picked to go and represent, because you didn't mind what you were doing. You'd just do it for the team, for the school, just to get on and do. So
they'd find a slot for you.
They'd find a slot for me. She's willing. She'll do it. She won't mind. Yeah, chuck her in for that.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So if you're talking about coaching the under 13s till under 16s or so, what do you do after that?
I don't know.
Would your passion be just to get to there and you're happy, or do you think actually I'd like to perhaps progress to another younger group and bring them through?
I don't know.
What do you think?
My daughter does trampolining and gymnastics at the moment. So, and the guy that she trampolines with has already conned me into trampoline coaching once a month when he wants to do a park run, because we have to do trampolining for schools. We're qualified in that. And I went, okay, whatever, that's fine. So maybe I'll do a bit of that. I hadn't really thought about it. Like I say, mind is so busy taking each day as it comes that 4 years ahead is quite a long way. I hadn't really thought At the moment, I'm just thinking, am I the right person to take them through to under 16s? And if I can get that far, then I'll reassess and see.
And then go into coaching the ladies here.
Go to coaching the ladies.
We've just
Smax.
sorted it. We've got
4 years' time. There she is.
there you go.
Yeah, so I think that is a question for later. I don't know. I don't know where I'll be with work. It's I'm not getting any younger. I have to point out. Not that I'm nearing retirement, unfortunately. But yeah, who knows? Who knows?
I think we'll call half time on that one. Got some announcements to make. Mini and Youth Festival.
Ooh, yes.
Sticky table. Apologise for the sticky table. Mini and Youth Festival, Sunday the 1st of May at Wimbledon for under 7s to under 12s. Team entry is £70. Contact. Let me see on here.
Neil, isn't it?
I think
Neil.
it's Neil.
Yeah, Neil Hanford on WRFC Mini Festival at gmail.com, or you can contact him on his mobile, which is 07803 152 395. If you're interested in the Minis Festival down here at Wimbledon, you want a club, you got a club, you want to enter into the tournament, give them a ring. It'll be a great day, and it'll be great for rugby. Rugby will be the winner. Apart from that, I understand the Sandbanks beach clean's been cancelled for
sadly it has
whatever reasons.
Yes.
Any other notifications have you got?
Not that I can think of. No.
Anything happening with the under 13s you want to announce?
No, big match against Bournemouth next week though.
Is it?
Match no, it's away at Bournemouth. But yes, match against Bournemouth next week.
How good are Bournemouth at your age?
They're pretty good.
But you'll be better next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be better next week.
Yeah.
Good luck for next week.
Good luck for next week, boys. I'm not going to be there, but they're going to go fighting fit. They're going to do me proud whilst they're there without me.
So with that then, if you've got any announcements for your grassroots clubs anywhere you want promoted, give us a contact on james@bemoreRugby.com or jay@bemoreRugby.com, or on any of the social media channels at Be More Rugby or Be More Rugby, or however they work. Jay's not here, so Jay's starting to sort all that out anyway. So yeah, if you've got anything you want us to promote, that you want shouted about, get in contact with us. Be happy to at half time. So half time announcements over. We'll move on to the second half. This is where, Shelley, we'd like to talk to you a bit more about the philosophy of rugby, how it's influenced, how it's helped. So I suppose we'll start off the second half with the question: what does rugby mean to you?
Always the biggie. This one.
It's a biggie,
Always
isn't it?
the biggie.
How do you answer that question?
With the answer.
With my answer, my version of the answer. What does rugby mean to me? Rugby is a team game. It involves everybody. It's not a bunch of individuals all trying to perform their own strengths. It's about involving everyone to enable them to perform the best as they can as a team. Mm-hmm. And Smax will have heard me a million times shouting, "You're a team, pass it out, give it to the left."
Nope, never heard that.
Never heard it.
Nope.
Stop being greedy. So it is very much about coming together as a unit, and teaching them all those, like I say, those treads, that treads ethos that we have taken them through from under 6s all the way through to under 13s now.
Can you explain the treads for those that...
on the spot now.
Remember them all. T for teamwork, R for respect, E for enjoyment, D for, I want to say determination, but I don't think it is.
No,
what is it?
Not going to help you.
Oh, I can't remember. S, sportsmanship, discipline. D's discipline. D's discipline, and I think S is sportsmanship. I've forgotten. I don't know. That's what I just tell mine all the time. Be nice to each other. Treads. That's why I say treads. Yeah. I can't remember what they all mean, kids. Who can tell me? That's what I asked them. I bounce it back.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it is very much and that's the massive ethos in our squad. It isn't about the individual players, and they are constantly reinforced with, "Come on, guys, you are a team. That's right. Involve everybody. It's about enjoyment. Brilliant. All go out and have fun." I am very much not of course, I love to win now and again. That's fine. And when we do win, it's great. But I would not say I'm in it to win it as such. I'm in it for the boys to enjoy it, to work as a team, to develop all those life skills they get along with it, and just to be the best that they can be. And if they, and like people always, like I see it saying to Smax, I'm not sure I'm the right person. He goes, well, you clearly are, aren't you? Because look how many got in your squad. And you go, all right, okay, fair enough. He goes, you must be doing something right. Yeah, right, fair enough. And he's right. You know, when you look at it that way, and you've got 30 kids in the squad that turn up regularly and all want to play. And even through COVID, we haven't had any pull out, you know, which has been a real issue for lots of clubs, you know, not just rugby, but across the board. Kids have pulled out, you know, and they have, yeah, it is a success. And that's what sometimes I get with I'm not saying I don't get disappointed when they lose. Of course I do. And so do they. But it's more about what they do once they've got over that disappointment.
How they handle it.
And how they handle it. And they've got to be able to handle disappointment, because kids that go through life winning all the time, when they finally don't win, what do they do about it? And this is what I keep saying to ours, you know, your time, and I must have said it a number of times over, your time will come. And I look at the success of our under 15s this year, and I know they were in a very similar position to us when they were under 13s. And I look at them and I say, look where they are now, you know, and it's that sheer dedication, it's the determination, it's the respect, it's the teamwork, it's all those things that we push that makes, I think, Wimbledon a success, as a successful club, and every year group within it. So yeah, that's what rugby means to me.
And that's a great answer. That's a fantastic answer.
Phew.
I just want to touch on a point that you mentioned.
Oh God.
You mentioned it earlier on. Learn to take defeat.
Oh God, yeah. I think that's so important.
You just mentioned just then about the fact that, you know, okay, there's an enjoyment element to all sports, but the lads, the girls, the youngsters that are getting a medal for coming, you know, last in a race, just so that they feel better. I'm all about kids enjoying things, but the world's not a nice place when you get into the real world.
No, it isn't.
You know, in every job I've had and in every element of my business, nobody rewards me for not doing a good level,
doing a good
job, whatever it is. And sometimes that defeat teaches you more than any victory.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about what you do with it. It's about how you make a difference this next time, what you learn from making those mistakes, or whatever it might be, the reasons that you've lost, or you haven't worked as a team. You've been full of 13 individuals rather than one unit. So if they have learned from that, and we as coaches, not just the kids, but us as coaches have learned from that, and say, okay, well, what can we do differently next time about that? And they understand that to me that's as important as the win, you know, because that is a win in itself, that you've recognized that was an issue, and that's why we possibly didn't win or didn't score as many tries as we could have done. So yeah, I think learning to take a defeat is a massive learning curve. I think it's so important, because the kids are not going to succeed in everything that they do the first time. Yeah. And as a teacher, you see that all the time when kids fail exams,
interviews for jobs,
driving tests, interviews, GCSEs, mock exams, whatever it is.
This is the interesting thing, and I know both my lads, when they did their GCSEs, certainly my youngest did really well in his GCSEs. My eldest did really well in his GCSEs, but when my eldest went to get his exam results, he said there were so many kids there that were just almost in tears, because they were expecting to get to a certain place and then didn't achieve what they'd achieved, and they were all nervous. And he said, they turned to me and said, you know, are you nervous? And he went, well, no, I've done my best, and what I get I'll deal with, and I'll work with that. If I couldn't have done any better. But if he was expecting a certain grade and didn't get it, would he have coped with it had he not had that understanding of, you know, sometimes you don't get what you want. And I think you got to deal with it.
I think team games are a massive part of that. I think, like I say, you're not going to win every game, and if you deal with that, and you know, if you know what your expectations are, and it depends on how much you put into it. doesn't it? If you put everything into that and you know you've done your best, and as a parent, that's all I ever say to my kids. I don't care where you come. I don't care if we win the game. And I say it to my kids, I don't care if you win the match, boys. But what's important to me is that you've done your best, you know, and if you've worked together as that team and you've passed that ball out and you haven't been ball greedy and you know, you have listened to your teammates and you've done all those things, that in itself is a win. If you've made that tackle because you're nervous about making a tackle, but you've made 2 brilliant tackles that lesson,
Well done.
That's a big well done to you. You've won.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. And I said that to Dan Cottrell when he was down for that thingy. Sorry. And he was talking about winning, because that was, you know, the way forward. You had to win. And I said to my co-coaches, well, we've just spent the last 6 years telling our kids that winning is not important. You know, from under 6s to under 12s, winning is not important. And now all of a sudden in under 13s, it is important. How am I supposed to change their mindset from let's go and play and have a nice time and, you know, you do all these treads, to under 13s, you've got to win, because otherwise, you know, we've lost, sort of thing.
I think most players, as you get older, it's all about winning.
Oh yeah, the kids know if they've won, and they take that on board. But his response to that question, when I asked him that on a Zoom session I had with him, he said, well, actually, it's the scoreline will take care of itself. You know, it doesn't, scoreline really doesn't matter. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. But where your wins are if you have managed to get that child to make that tackle, if they've gone into that ruck and they've performed the rucks much better this week, or you've managed to pass it down the line without knocking it forward. If you give each of those kids their individual targets, they've won. And it doesn't matter actually what the score is. The win, like we said in the past, once you've got all those tactics and all those nitty-gritty bits together, the win will come. But it's the individual wins that you need to push at our age.
So we watched England lose a player early on in the Six Nations, and they really put their effort in. Probably one of the best games I've watched them play for a long time. And they lost the game, but actually it was good to see that they put such a performance in. For whatever reason, they didn't win, but actually it was a better game to watch, and I got more satisfaction probably out of that than if they'd have just gone and, you know, and won and steamrolled.
Yeah, steamrolled,
so all the little wins have got to be important. I was chatting with somebody the other week about the dopamine system that's released in your body when you're progressing towards something, to a goal, not necessarily achieving the goal, but progressing towards it. There's a benefit in having a goal and achieving a goal. But a lot of people that set their goals at the very, very top, then achieve it, don't have anything to go on to it again. Yeah. But on the way, they're not celebrating all the things that they're achieving. Yeah. So they're kind of depressed until they get to where they got to get. And then they've gone, well, I've achieved that goal and that's it. I've got nothing more. Whereas actually, if you said, like you say, they made that tackle successfully that they were trying to, they still lost the game, but they did something that worked for them and they've got to celebrate it.
Yeah. I think that's really important for the kids to realize that actually you are proud of them for making that. And so like they know that they've made that win for them. And if you can, and you show them that, you know, see that they've done it, then that's a win in itself. I think the kids are chuffed if you mention them and they go, oh, Max, you know what, you hooked really well today. That was awesome. You know, you took out, I don't know, yesterday particularly, he probably won 9 out of 10 scrums against both teams, you know, so was hooking brilliantly. And you think, you know, you played really well. And that's for me, that's really hard to say to him because he's my son. And very often you don't give him the credit because you're too busy watching others, and it's very quick to pick up on him as something he's done bad. You know, and there's a book about that, isn't there? Different coaching hats on and parent home. Yeah. But it's really hard to praise your own, I find, when you're coaching. But if you can pick up on all those others, I'm very quick to say, do you know what, that was brilliant. No, you did that really well, or that was fantastic, or to all the other kids, because you're busy watching and you give them their individual little wins. And so fair play to Max. So once he gets a win, he's like, yes, did I really play well? Yes, you did, mate. Yes, you did. So yeah, I think it's important that you celebrate their little wins as they go through. with a big tackle or whatever it might be that they did that day.
Yeah, they're not little wins; they're wins.
They're big wins as far as they're
They're
concerned.
wins.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Go on.
sorry. So your team at the moment. You said earlier on, obviously, rugby's for everyone. How do you, and for those that are listening, when you're coaching a team that's so diverse, because rugby has a position for everybody, how do you adapt training sessions specifically to try and develop the players? Because not just as a on a playing side of things, but at some stage, some are going to be more advanced than others on the mindset side of things. That is
Emotionally.
Mm.
Do you know what? If emotionally and stuff, I think we must pitch the training sessions fine, because I don't really ever have an issue with that. You know, they all come, they all put 100% in, and we have got some weaker players and some stronger players, like say, and every team does. And I will sometimes speak to those parents and say, I'm a little bit worried. You know, the game is getting a little bit more physical. And some of those parents have just responded to me at the end of each season and gone, Shelley, they just love it so
Yeah,
much.
there
You
you
know,
go.
I don't have to encourage them to go on a Sunday. They're up, they're ready to go. They just want to go and they play. So I don't feel I've ever really come across the need to worry about that too much. I think maybe it's part of teaching, because that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. And I've got 30 kids every lesson, which you've got to differentiate between what and with whatever sport it might be. So you've got kids that can swim and kids that can't swim, and kids that are really good ones and kids that, like I say, can't swim at all in the same class. And I've got kids that can and can't play badminton, and you just adapt accordingly. And I don't even think I think about it. I think it just, because of that 25 years of teaching, I think it just happens. But I can imagine that can be quite hard for coaches that don't have that teaching background.
I think that probably answers the question as to why so many of the top level coaches in rugby come from a teaching background.
Yeah.
So the ability to differentiate is really important, and to motivate. And like I say, you just do it. You don't think about doing it. It's just there. You just do it. And that's not something I've ever really thought about.
So even in my job, which is just about bringing teams together to build construction projects, so many times I'll be banging my head against the wall thinking, this is just like in a playground. You know, you kids they're just kids out there. Do you know what I mean? You got one contractor in a mood with another one because he took something, and I sometimes sit there and just think, my mum was a teacher, and I just think, I just don't know how you'd cope with this, you know, all day, every day.
Yeah.
I go to work and I come home. Sometimes I just think I've just been sorting out some kids in a
Run
playground.
over.
Just really, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it is like that. Teaching is like that, without any shadow of a doubt. And you don't know what you're getting from one day to the next. You don't know what mood the kids are going to be in. I don't know what mood the kids are going to be in. They rock up here on a Wednesday and a Sunday.
But you must love it. You said 25 years. You must love it.
Oh, yeah, well, it's not quite been 25, but it's nearly 25. 2000, yeah, so 22.
So
Yeah.
you must love it.
I do, for the most part.
Yeah,
I do. There are times when you come out and you're like, I need to throttle someone. But, you know, but ultimately, 98% of the kids are no problem at all. You're always going to it doesn't matter where you go. The grass is not greener. You know, you could go to the best school. There's always going to be somebody which isn't towing the line. But as long as the kids do the best, like I said before, it doesn't matter. And you see them through their successes. Like I've been taking my year 11s through and talking about their exams and where they are now and what they've got left to do. And they're like, all right, okay. So if you can just get 5 more marks with this practical grade you've got coming up this week, you'll get a level 2 distinction star. And they're like, oh, really? If I just, okay. And you've got, and they get quite excited. And, you know, it's important for me to see that they are enthusiastic about that and quite motivated themselves.
Something that excites me about, because I played second row and I didn't score. I didn't,
No.
you know, the ball landed at my feet once and I looked and there was an open field by fluke and I started running thinking, I could do this, and then just thought, no, come on, it's ridiculous. Too far.
Yeah.
But as far as, and we talk about rugby, everyone having a position, everybody being different, as far as the second row goes, as far as I'm concerned, and you might disagree, I don't know. You're there to give your strength to everyone else. You're not there to run over a try or kick a goal or whatever. You're there to protect. You're there to tackle.
Ruck
You're there to
over.
work hard, ruck,
Take the ball in.
exactly,
whatever.
do all of that.
Yeah.
So you're giving your strength to everybody else. You're not actually getting. It might appear to people that aren't you're not getting the glory.
No.
You're there to do the hard work and take pleasure in the fact that other
Somebody
people take
score.
the glory.
Mm.
And you're just talking now about the fact that you're talking about your school kids. You're talking about what they're going to achieve, how they can achieve it. You've gone into coaching to tell these under 13s how to play rugby, how to develop as athletes and as young people. Do you think that that second row is driving you forwards?
I think it is, because that's what I say to the kids out there every week. I say to them, your job is this, your job is that. And it doesn't matter if you don't score, but you've enabled them to score. And that's why it is such a team game. And if you do your job, he can do his job.
And then you ultimately.
And then you're part of that.
Win.
And this is it. And I'll use Max because I feel I should use my own. He did a cracking one on site yesterday, and he was playing hooker, but he saw the ball. He was hanging out of the ruck, and the ball was kicked, and he ran back for it, and dived on it. And it's not something I've seen him do before. And he dived on it, but he picked it up, and then he got battered by somebody that came in, but he kept hold of the ball and he placed it brilliantly, and it then got picked up by one of his teammates, and it got passed down the line, and Alfie ended up running that in and scoring it.
Wow.
And it was brilliant to see that that a number of different kids had been involved in that process, and that had started from him running back and securing that ball. And that's just one example from yesterday. There were lots and lots that I could have picked up on, but it is about, and that's why rugby is a team game. And this is what I keep telling them. This is not about you trying to drive through. This is about you drawing that player in and then making the right decision to ship it out to somebody else at the right time, to allow somebody else to run it in and score. And if you can do that, you should all take glory in that try. And they are beginning to learn that. They are beginning to learn that. And that is definitely a second row mentality, because like I say, that's what I had to do. I don't remember ever scoring.
Did the guys on that try yesterday, did they appreciate the fact that it came?
They absolutely did. So there was probably, they all came down, and of course me and some of the other coaches are going, that's brilliant, well done Max, that's come from you doing that, and the boys actually came back, and they do congratulate each other.
That's fantastic.
when they see that. It's not all about Alfie running that ball in. They knew that it had been passed down 3 or 4 different people to enable that to happen. But is that because of, I'm not saying me, but in general, is that because that's how a coach coaches that? And it's so important that you make that point to those kids when they score that it's a team effort. It's not just well done you for scoring. It's a well done everyone for making that happen. And I know I'm very big on well done everyone for making that happen.
But you didn't have to push your children yesterday to celebrate it with Max.
No. They were aware that that was what's needed.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah, it was good. It was really nice to see. So I take that as a win.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I said this before, and I don't want to sound like a stuck record, but success is watching somebody else go over the try line, but being able to celebrate because you contributed.
Yeah. And that is actually what rugby is about, isn't it? Or any team game, really. You've done your bit to help that happen. And it's taken the kids a few years, or my year group, a few years to figure that out. But it's constant. You can't be the one to take it over all the time. And actually yesterday, Ollie, you are going to be targeted now because you've run in 3. So they're going to pick on you. They're going to see you and they're going to take you out. So you have now got to make that decision to ship it out to somebody else. And he did. And again, it's about him taking it, shipping it, and everyone working together to make sure they're supporting him to enable him to do that.
But they've identified that at 13 years age.
Yeah. But that's something we've reinforced forever.
That's a very good thing.
Yeah, it's not something that we would expect them to just know. It's something that, like I say, we as a coaching team have reinforced since certainly under 8s. It's not a one-man band.
So when these under 13s go up, hopefully they'll continue in Wimbledon for for the next number of years, they'll move on to uni, they'll move into professional careers, they'll move on to be parents. What do you hope they take from their rugby here at Wimbledon when they move through into adult life?
I hope what they take from this is that it isn't about the winning, as in the physical score. It is about working as a group. It's about trusting each other. It's about relying on one another to be able to make it happen. And as if the win happens as a result, then brilliant.
So be it.
Then so be it. Yeah, like people say, the scoreline will take care of itself. It's how you perform on the day. It's what you get from it. It's how you work as a team. It's the things you learn within it that's important.
I was here for 15 years with the Colts with Barry Maidman, and he said, "I don't care about the scoreline today, boys. I have I don't think
I'm not interested.
No performance.
How you do.
If you perform very well, then the scoreline will sort itself out.
Yeah, exactly.
If you perform to the best of your ability and they score more points than you, there's no problem with that at all.
You can't ask a kid to do any more than that.
Nope.
And we take that as parents all the way through. You've just got to do your best. If you can come off that pitch and tell me you have done your best, and even if you missed that tackle, you ran in and you tried to do it, he dodged you. It's not a problem if you miss it. It really doesn't matter. What have you learnt by you missing that tackle? Or whatever it might be. That's what's important. So yeah, that's what I hope 100%. They take from that.
So as far as you're concerned, you've already expressed the fact that you've got a second row mentality. In a good way.
Probably got the ears to prove it.
You've got big black ears.
What would you say you'd be missing today if you hadn't played rugby?
Oh God.
Ooh.
I don't really know. It's difficult because what would I have done something else over that? I think with rugby, there's very much a camaraderie in rugby, and I think I was lucky that both sports I ended up taking up, it was very much that way. Was that because of the clientele as such, the people that were taking part in it at that time, or was that because that was how the club was portrayed, or the team was portrayed at the time? I don't really know, but I would hope that I've taken from all the camaraderie and the learning the defeats, because we had a number of defeats when we had to play South Division. Let's be honest, when we were playing people like Saracens and whatever else. But it was what we did with that. No, there was no blame game. There was none of that. It was a team, and we all did what we had to do, and we supported each other. So there's that element of support that you take from it. There's that element of teamwork that you take from it. There's that element of trust and friendship, I think, that you get from all of that. And like I said, I was lucky with both sports that I took up at uni or continued at uni that I got that from. I don't think it happens everywhere. I don't think it happens in all sports. I think there is certain expectations from some, and if you don't achieve, you are asked to leave. You're removed, or made to feel awkward, or made to feel like you shouldn't be there. And I think, like I say, rugby and volleyball that I took up, I was lucky that both sports were enabled me to be who I wanted to be and do what I wanted to do. So
successfully.
Well, hope so. Fingers crossed.
I'm sure successfully.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where we should wrap up.
Have you had enough?
Well, you know me, Smax. If you've got a question, I'll answer it.
I think really from what I've taken from this
is that Jay should be here next time.
I write notes down as we talk. The one thing that keeps coming up in all the podcasts we do is friendship. You mentioned that when you went to uni, you just walked into rugby and everybody was welcoming. There's a camaraderie, there's a team spirit, and I think that probably comes from the fact that you actually, when you're out playing rugby and you're putting your body on the line, you're reliant on your team to help you, support you, and they're reliant on you, especially if you're second row. You know, Pretty Boy back goes,
Pretty boy, yeah.
yeah. They go charging down the wing. They get wrapped up by
Or girl.
or girl. Oh yeah, I apologise.
It's all right. I call them pretty boys.
Pretty girls, pretty boys. They're reliant on us as well as forwards, second rows or whatever to give them support for protection. And I think the friendship, Harry Barr said, it's a different bond that you get when you come into other sports maybe, but especially with rugby. But you've talked about teamwork, you've talked about friendship, you talked about support, and you talked about the lessons you learn from defeat and the celebrating all the little wins as you go along the way. I think, that's really, really cool. What about you?
I'd say yes for sure. Yeah, you've been interesting. I've enjoyed.
Thanks.
I've been. Yeah, you have.
Interesting.
You have. Yeah, yeah. It's been good.
It's nice to get a coach's perspective on
For
it.
sure, for sure.
Speaking to players, speaking to managers, helping the management of the academy, and it's different when you're a little bit detached from actually the coaching side of things. So no, it's good to get a different perspective on it.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
So I think just have a cool down
Who's next?
with what's what.
Who's next on our hit list?
Next podcast is James Williams, who hopefully is going to be here in the club again with us. Very much looking forward to that. Hopefully hopefully Jay is fully recovered and back with us. It should well be. Smax has been absolute delight. Thank you very much for helping out. Still, you remain the best first guest we've ever had on the podcast.
Shush now.
Shelley, it's been a real eye-opener, a pleasure. And thank you very much for coming on.
Best third guest. Yeah, I'll take that. It's a win.
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, winning all the way. I think we're all winners today.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure.
It's all right. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
No problems. So until next time, be more rugby.